Hello! So in today's video I'm going to make a heart-shaped bag. I already have a heart-shaped bag, but that's a camp heart-shaped bag. That's a heart-shaped bag. This one's going to be, you know, like a heart. Yeah, so we're going to make that and it's going to be fun. And I'm going to use my college uniform to make it because I spent 51 quid on that shit for 1 year. I spent 51 quid on that shit for 1 year. For 1 year, to wear it for 1 whole year. I could have got the one, however, washing and everything, it was easier to get to, and the two came up to 51 quid. 51. Expensive for what? Something I'm going to wear for a year and then it's going to go goodbye, can't wear it, can't sell it, can't give it away, can't do anything with it, because it's a uniform that they'll use once and then never ever again. So what am I meant to do with it exactly? So I'm making it into a bag because that's what normal people do, right? Right? But here we go. As usual, I start out with my pattern. I call it a pattern. However, it's not really a pattern because it's just a shape that I cut material into. So it's not really a pattern because it doesn't have seam allowance or any kind of darts or any markings on it. It's just a shape. So I cut out my shape. Fun fact, this was actually a top that I really liked, but it didn't fit me, and it was in a charity shop and I couldn't find it anywhere online. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep this because one day I'll use it for something or another. I'm gonna use it. And I actually put it up on my wall for a bit. Like, I had the material just on my wall as a kind of like fun decoration, and I didn't really do anything with it. And then finally I was like, I should make something out of it. So it goes on this bag now. This material is going to be my outer layer for the hearts itself, so that I can have this pretty floral kind of material on the outer layer so it looks all cutesy and everything. Because I wanted the bag to have some kind of shape, even if there's nothing in there, so that you could see it was meant to be a heart, even if there's nothing in the bag, I knew I needed far more than the one material because, well, the heart shapes that I want on the outer layer, that material is so thin, you could probably just accidentally pin it in the wrong place and it would all fall apart. That's how thin that material is. So I knew I needed some other layers. So I decided I'm going to have 2 more layers, and then I'll also have a lining layer as well. So this is me cutting out my second layer, which will be right next to the lining layer. It's my college uniform that I can no longer wear because I don't go to that college anymore. This is another layer. To keep all 3 layers together, I added in a basting stitch so that they wouldn't move and I didn't have to keep my pins in there, because the amount of times I've accidentally stabbed myself with pins. I always see on like Instagrams, on the reels and stuff, people using pegs instead and clips, and I'm like, oh my god, I should invest in those, because the amount of times I've stabbed myself, it's so painful as well. Like, why is it so painful? It's a tiny little prick and it's like, ow, that hurts. Like most people who start off a hobby don't know where it's going to end and everything, I decided to buy kind of a base kit off Amazon, and then I ran out of threads and I was like, I should get more. And at this point, I'd never been into a fabric shop. I've only been once. However, I've never bought anything from it. I know, I'm a disaster to the whole sewing community. However, I bought this kind of like kit and all these threads, and this neon thread I never ever use. Like, who is sewing neon yellow clothes? I don't know anyone who does that. So I use it for my basting stitches. There's also a neon orange as well. Like, who does that? Who uses that? So I use them for my basting stitches because they're not going to get used otherwise. And they're really easy to see so that I can unpick them and everything. Now that I had my 2 hearts, all I had to do was the middle. So I didn't have enough of my pretty material to do the middle, so I used this black material instead. I then pinned my heart and the middle together. While doing this, I broke a needle. I'd finally finished putting the hearts and the middle together, but then I decided I wanted a seam right in the middle so that I could flatten it down and it still looked like a heart, but at the same time to keep its heart-shapedness in all of its glory and everything. I was too tired at this point to continue the main bag itself, so I decided to pick up my piece of material and cut my straps, because I knew that they needed to be done at some point, and well, I was too tired to actually use my big old noggin to be able to do the middle bit, and I was just like, I'm going to procrastinate that bit for a bit. So I decided to put on something, as I normally do, and just sew my way into these lovely little straps. As normal, I'm using my back stitch because it's my favourite stitch. It's the strongest stitch. After a night of procrastination and a morning of doing my straps, I decided to tackle the middle, and I had finally sewed the middle. Now that the main bag was done, I had to add more structure. I wanted it to be able to stand on its own, so what I first did was kind of tuck the black bits in, and I made sure that they were nice and thickly tucked in so that it could stand on its own, like you can see here. Then I had to tuck these bits in so that they wouldn't fray or anything. Realising that hemming the black bits made sure that the whole structure was sound, I decided to add bias tape into the middle where all my seams were, so that I had this kind of thick structure to it. I decided to fold my bias tape over a few times to make sure that it was extra thick so that it would stand on its own. My hypothesis of using the bias tape did in fact work. It did have structure. I knew I needed to do the middle as well, however I knew that I needed to add in my straps. Before doing the bias tape in the middle, I decided to add in my straps, as you can see here. Once I had finished my straps, I decided to add the bias tape to the middle. Once I had added the bias tape to the middle to both sides, I knew the part that I was dreading the most, which was how am I going to close this damn bag? It was the worst part. At some point I was like, maybe I should just leave it open like a tote bag. But I decided, no, it needs some way of closing. It was just kind of trial and error, to be honest. I didn't exactly know what I was doing. I was just hoping for the best. But at this point I added the black bit on there so that it would all look nice and everything. So I'd somewhat figured it all out, but not really, because I was like, oh, I don't exactly know if this is going to work or not. But it looked promising, so I just went on with it. Decided to add this embroidery because otherwise it was going to get thrown away, and I liked it, so there you go. The next thing to do was add a lining layer. To do that I just took some pieces of material and just pinned them in place, hoping that it was correct and looked at least decent. Then I sat on the floor and added my lining layer into my bag. Lovely little sewing job I did, using my back stitch, of course, the only stitch I really use, other than sometimes a felling stitch. We love a bit of that one as well. And it was finally done. I had my lining layer in there. Then I added my snap fastens, which I don't have a kit for, so I just used the ones that I had on my uniform and just sewed them on there. Then all I had to do was press my damn seams, which I had been doing throughout, by the way. I was just pressing my lining layer seams here. Look at my tiny iron though. Look how adorable my tiny iron is. It's so small, so dainty, so small and dainty and tiny. So cute. It was only £3.50 in a charity shop, and it works really well as well. And here we are, the end. It's made. It's a bag. The bag itself. Look at it! It's lost some of its heart-shapedness. I wish I could have made it more kind of like, you know, the V shape, more V-shapey. However, but also this, perfect. Love it so much. Just, oh. So easy to open and close. So easy. But yeah, and look at my cute little design I did. I made this 2 years ago. I went on holiday and I had my sewing gear with me and I was just sewing. And in the car, on the journey, car, yes, and I was just sewing, and I had I used made it into a t-shirt kind of collar thing, but then I used the black shirt for other things, and I'd already got bleach on it and stuff, so I thought, save the little embroidery type thing, my pathetic attempts to embroider, but it's so cute, so yeah, I love my little bag. She's adorable, she cute, we love her. Worked out in my head, it took me about 40 hours to make this. Ridiculousness. 40 hours, 40 for this. I mean, it is adorable though, don't get me wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Don't know if I'm ever going to be here again, who knows. If you'll see me again, maybe another sewing video. I do have a few more things I want to sew, more bags, of course. This could be my last video, or there could be more, because there are more things I want to sew. I just don't know if I have, first off, the right colour materials, and secondly, the motivation to do it, because I feel so tired of sewing right now. I'm like, if I never see a needle again, I'll be happy, but at the same time I'm like, I want to sew. But thank you so much for watching. I may see you again, I may not, who knows. So goodbye.